Cobblemon is an incredible game. There are so many fun things that you can do in this game, and so today I'm going to teach you the top 50 tips and tricks to get the most out of your Cobblemon experience. Now, whether you're just a Cobblemon noob or an absolute pro, I guarantee that there's going to be something new in this video that you will learn that will help you out. So what I want you guys to do is, as you're watching this video, count up how many of these tips you already knew and put it down in the comment section below, and we'll see who can win. I put a whale lord sized amount of work into this video, so I can promise you that you will get something out of it if you stick around to the end. But without any further ado, let's get into the guide. My first tip is about when you start the world, how to get shiny starters. When you start a world and hit create new, go to the more tab and game rules. Now if you scroll all the way down to miscellaneous, there's this part here, click on with starters will be shiny and your starter Pokemon will be shiny. This is also a great place to do if you want to play Cobblemon without mobs or without other certain things. You can change it here. And as you can see, our starter Pokemon Mudkip is shiny in this world. Now, if you're a beginner, there are a couple really important tips we should start off with. First of all, if you want to evolve your Pokemon, you hit the M key, and if they're ready to evolve, it'll say evolve here on the left. Click on evolve, and then evolve your Pokemon over here. If you want to change your Pokemon's moves, you can click here to moves, and with the arrows, and you can click on whatever move you want to change it to. Then if you want to check their IVs, you click on stats and IVs. If you want to check their EVs, click on EVs. And then if you want to check their friendship, you click on other. Next, if you want to give your Pokemon a held item, you shift and right click on them and click this right here, and you'll give it a held item. One of the best held items to give your Pokemon is the experience share. The experience share is crafted by 2 lapis, an iron helmet, 2 pieces of iron, a gold ingot, and 2 amethyst shards. I have an entire video about it that I'll link in the description that you can check out if you have questions. But this item allows all of your Pokemon to gain experience from one battle, which is really helpful for leveling up quickly. Then if you want to nickname one of your Pokemon, you click on the M key to open this up and just click on their name, get rid of whatever's there, and type in what you want to name them. And then when you click off, that will be their new nickname. Another great tip is to always have a Pokemon with false swipe in your party. False swipe is a move that prevents the Pokemon you're fighting from fainting. It will never knock them out, so you can hit them as many times as you want, and the lowest they can go is 1 HP. This is super helpful for catching Pokemon, especially Pokemon that you don't want to fail, like shiny Pokemon. I would recommend always having a false swiper on your team. Ninjask is one of the best ones to start with because you can find him super commonly in forest and plains biomes, but he is a little bit weak. So after you have been playing for a little bit, I would recommend trying to find a better false swiper. My 2 recommendations would either be Gallade with a male Ralts or Caesar, right? Starting with a Scyther. These are probably the 2 best false swipers in the game to have with you. Now it's time to talk about Pokeballs. Quick Ball is one of the best possible Pokeballs you can have because it has a 5 times catch rate on the first turn of battle, and you can craft it like this. So it always have some of these with you. My next favorite is the Timer Ball, because as you go into battle for a long time, if you're trying to catch a really difficult Pokemon like a legendary, after 10 turns, it has a 4 times catch rate and will stay at that until the battle is over. And you can craft it this way. So I would always keep that with you. My next favorite Pokeball is actually the Park Ball. It's very simple and cheap to craft, but it's actually better than an Ultra Ball if you're in a forest or plains biome. And let's be honest, we spend a lot of our time playing in forest or plains biomes. And I found that even just chucking a Park Ball at a lot of different Pokemon in a forest or plains biome, there's a pretty good chance you'll catch them. The next Pokeball I would recommend is the Friend Ball. If you catch Pokemon with a Friend Ball, it will start with 150 base friendship. There are many Pokemon like Eevee and Riolu that need to evolve with friendship, and they need 160 friendship in Cobblemon to evolve. So if it starts with 150, they're pretty much already there. A Luxury Ball helps them gain friendship twice as fast, but I think a Friend Ball is much more useful. Now, if you've caught a Pokemon like Eevee, like I did, without a Friend Ball, and you want it to evolve by friendship, then the other ways you can get it to gain its friendship is by walking around with it outside of its Pokeball and just having it follow you around, and by having it level up in battle. Now it's time to talk about hunting down rare Pokemon that you want to find, such as starter Pokemon. If you go to the Cobblemon Wiki, which you can just find by Googling Cobblemon Wiki, and click on Pokemon, then click on main page Pokemon spawning, and then click on this page right here where my mouse is. This will bring up this huge Google Docs spreadsheet that looks kind of confusing, but basically it just tells you where every Pokemon spawns in Cobblemon. For example, Bulbasaur spawns in the jungle biome at any time with any weather, and he is an ultra rare spawn, so he doesn't spawn very often. And you can go through, and so if you have a question about a Pokemon, you can just Control F, search. For example, I want to know how to find Dratini, it will go down to Dratini, and then I can just check where he spawns. Now I have two main strategies for using this to hunt rare Pokemon in a way that doesn't make you bored out of your mind. My first suggestion is to go to that biome. For example, if I wanted to find a Pokemon that spawned in a forest biome, like a Trico or something, go to a forest biome and start a project. Right? Build a house or try and cut down a bunch of trees to gather wood. I would do something like that that's time consuming, but isn't boring, so that you're spending a lot of time in this biome getting Pokemon spawns rather than just walking around in a forest biome waiting for a Trico to spawn. My next tip for finding rare Pokemon, and also just for enjoying the game, is to explore. As you explore different biomes, you'll find new Pokemon, you'll find rare items, you'll also find cool things in Minecraft. It'll make the game a lot more enjoyable, but it's also a great way to find shiny and rare Pokemon. If you're like me and you love hunting shiny Pokemon, then there's one tip you have to follow. The base shiny odds in Cobblemon are really high, 1 in 8,000. So if you want to change that to make it a little bit easier, you can go to your Curse Forge mod pack, click on the top 3 dots in the right corner, and click on Open Modding Folder. Then go to Instances, go to the version of Cobblemon you're playing on, then go to Config, Cobblemon, and main.json. Now there's a lot of different stuff in here, but at the bottom you'll see the shiny rate. It's usually set to 8,100, 1 in 8,100. But me personally, I set it at 1 in 2,500, because then shiny Pokemon are still rare, but they're not impossible to find. Now you can change this to whatever you want. If you want it 1 in 5,000, 1 in 10,000 if you're crazy, or 1 in 100 if you just want a million shiny Pokemon. It's up to you. Now my next tip is about healing items. You'll see these things, medicinal leeks, all over the world, and they look pretty lame, but you can farm them on water, and I would highly suggest doing it, because you need medicinal leeks to brew potions and healing items of almost any kind. I have a whole video about medicinal leeks if you'd like to learn more that I will link in the description for you. I would also recommend setting up a honey farm, because you need honey to craft revives, and you need it in pretty large quantity if you want to have any good supply of revives. So I would make sure to farm honey, as well as all sorts of different kinds of berries, because they're helpful for healing items. My next tip is just to have a lot of revives and max revives on you, because these are really useful when you're fighting Pokemon like legendary Pokemon that take a while to catch. I have a whole video about revives as well that I can have in the description, or you can just look on the Cobblemon Survival Guide series that I have, and that playlist will teach you in depth everything you need to know about Cobblemon. I'll hit all the basics in this video, but if you want details, definitely go to that playlist and subscribe to this channel, and you'll learn everything you need to know about this game. The next tip is to make potions and hyper potions as well, which, like I said, just take brewing a medicinal leek and then brewing an orange berry. Nature mints are another really important crop that can allow you to change your Pokemon's nature. They're harvested just like this, and you can plant them. Now, to use a nature mint, each one is capable of influencing a certain attack. So red is attack, blue is special attack. So if I want a nature that'll raise my attack, like adamant, I put 3 red ones like that, 1 blue one like that, and I will get an adamant mint. Then, if I want to change my Pokemon's nature, for example, my Blaziken, I'll send Blaziken out, and we can look right now, his nature is a plus speed and a minus attack. But now if we right click on him with the adamant mint, his stats change, and now he is a plus attack and minus special attack. And if you look at the difference from how his attack was before, it's pretty big. And while we're over here, of course, we do have to pay respects to our fallen soldier. Rest in peace, Shiny Tauros. We miss you mucho. One of the more simple but useful tips is to build an iron farm. An iron farm is super simple to make. Actually, if you check out my video on how to farm infinite great balls, I'll show you how to make this exact iron farm. It just takes a few minutes. But with iron, you can farm an infinite supply of several different kinds of Pokeballs, as well as be useful for many other of the Minecraft type things in the game. I would also suggest, I haven't done this yet in my survival guide series, but you can build a gold farm, which is also very simple, and then you can farm an infinite amount of Ultra Balls and Quick Balls as well. One other farm that I think is essential that you build is an automatic apricorn farm. Harvesting apricorns manually is a pain, and building an automatic apricorn farm is super simple and will allow you to have, especially with the other 2 farms, an infinite supply of any kind of Pokeball you want with very minimal effort. Again, I have a video on how to make this. I'll link it in the description. And honestly, if you're curious about any of this stuff, you can just go to the Cobblemon Survival Guide playlist, and all of the videos that you'll need will be there. More of a fun tip rather than a particularly useful one, there are certain Pokemon like Eevee that can go on your shoulder. If you shift and right click and press this shoulder button, they will go and pop on your shoulder, which is a really fun way just to play the game. You can have an Eevee or Pikachu or several other Pokemon on your shoulder. These used to give bonus effects, but they no longer do. Hopefully that'll be reintroduced into the game at some point. Another great tip, revives and everything are great, but sometimes it can be a lot of work to get them, when honestly you can just break a healing machine and carry this with you on long journeys, and then if your Pokemon ever faint, you can just bring it out, use it, and then pick it up and take it with you again, which is much simpler than using a revive. So if you're on a long trip, I would do that. One of the most useful held items is leftovers. It heals your Pokemon gradually, and if you eat an apple, there is a chance that it will leave you with a leftovers. It is a pretty small chance, you'll have to do it over and over again, but I would get a supply of apples and just carry it with you, use it as a food source, and eventually you should have leftovers to be able to give to your Pokemon. My next tip is to get a mini map. A mini map is so helpful, and honestly, if you're going to be doing any shiny hunting, you absolutely need a mini map. I can put down the link to where I downloaded my mini map, and I will put out a video about how to use it specifically in a future episode. It's pretty intuitive though, and it is so helpful. With the mini map comes another tip. When you find a certain biome that spawns rare Pokemon, like a jungle, or if you find a village or other notable structure, you can actually mark that by setting a waypoint by pressing the B button, and then you can just type in what you want it to be, like village, confirm, and then that's actually going to show on the map. And if I was farther away, it would show me how to get here, which is super helpful for keeping track of things. You don't have to write down all the coordinates. My next big tip comes for Pokemon drops. If you just go to the Cobblemon wiki and search drops, it'll bring up this page, and then click on this spreadsheet here. It'll take you to another Google Sheet, and this shows you what every Pokemon has the chance to drop. Now, a lot of these aren't very useful, but some of them are extremely helpful. For example, Chansey here can drop a lucky egg, which is super helpful for getting your Pokemon to level up a lot faster. Right? This is something that if you come across a Chansey, I would definitely try and knock it out, because the lucky egg is really helpful. Just Chanseys are a little bit rare, so it's hard to come across. But for example, if you come across a Vaporeon, a Jolteon, or a Flareon, you can get the different elemental stones from knocking them out. And so if I were you and you had some item that you really wanted, I would check if there's any Pokemon that drops it and then try and hunt that Pokemon, and it's a great way to get some of the more rare items in Cobblemon. My next tip is actually to trade with villagers. It may seem like a simple thing, but it is incredibly helpful. For example, oops, he's running away because he saw a zombie, but farmer villagers can give you Vivichoke seeds, and then many other villagers can also get you lots of items that are helpful for Cobblemon and not just the Minecraft aspect. So I would definitely set up a villager trading hall, or just trade a lot with the villagers at the first village you find. Plus, there's some pretty rare Pokemon that spawn in villages, so that's a bonus as well. Also, if you're looking to find high-level Pokemon or train with high-level Pokemon, there are some people that say that if you have high-level Pokemon in your party, like I do, that higher-level Pokemon will spawn in the wild. I personally am not sure if this is actually true, but it's worth trying out and noting because it is something that's talked about a lot on the internet. But there is a range if you look on the spawn list of how high Pokemon can even spawn, so it can't get too much past that. Another huge tip, some Pokemon need to trade to evolve, for example Gengar. And so if you're in a multiplayer world, you can just face another player and press R, and then you'll be able to trade with them. If you are not in a multiplayer world, there is an item called the Link Cable, which is crafted using 2 popped chorus fruit, a piece of copper, and 2 pieces of iron, which you can also right-click a Pokemon that needs to evolve by trading with this, and then you'll be able to evolve them. Speaking of things that happen in the end, Beldum, who evolves into Metagross, one of the coolest Pokemon ever, is actually extremely easy to find. If you are in the end, there are very few Pokemon that spawn there, so even though he's a rare spawn, if you're in the end for 20 minutes or so, you're likely to come across a Beldum. So if you want Beldum, go to the end and you should find him pretty easily. What's probably one of my biggest tips is to actually set specific goals for yourself when you start the world. For example, when I started my playthrough, I made the goal that I would get at least 6 shiny Pokemon. I've actually now gotten 8, so I accomplished that goal. But then I also had other goals, like I wanted a full team of 6 starter Pokemon at level 100, which I don't have yet. I also wanted to catch a certain number of legendaries and a couple other things that I haven't done yet. But this makes the playthrough a lot more fun, and if you're playing on a solo world, it's really important because it allows you to still have motivation when maybe you don't have the added features like gyms that you can get on a server. Speaking of servers, that's another great tip. If you want to have a lot of fun, I would join a server or make a server with your friends, because then you have the functionality of gym battles and trading, which really makes the game a lot more fun. But I also spend a lot of time playing on personal. That's what my survival guide series is, and it's still plenty of fun. So if you don't have anyone to play with or don't feel like joining a server, you can still enjoy the game a lot. My next tip is to use vitamins to EV train extremely quickly. These are crafted very simply, typically just using nature mints and berries, as well as some medicinal brew, which you need medicinal leeks for. Typical EV training is a grind, but with vitamins, you can do it extremely quickly. For example, my Feraligatr here currently has no EVs, besides one attack EV. But let's say I want to max out his attack. I can just use proteins on him, and you can farm these infinitely using farms, which I show in another video. And if you just keep right clicking it, there's no limit to the amount you can use until, of course, the EV is maxed out. And now, as you can see, my attack EV is way up here. And normal EV training is exhausting. You have to take hours fighting Pokemon. But with this, you can do it extremely quickly. This next one is kind of a random tip, but if you like Porygon and you want to find him, what you have to do is just place a bunch of PCs around, ideally one in every chunk near you, and then Porygon will have the opportunity to spawn. And after a certain amount of time, Porygon will show up. My next tip is to go to the nether roof. You can do this by just climbing all the way up in the nether until you get to bedrock and then throwing an ender pearl in the corners. I show how to do this in my video on how to level up quickly. And now if you are if you're on the nether roof, you can make a huge platform, much bigger than this, and it'll be a free spawning area for Pokemon where you can battle them and shiny hunt and EV training without worrying about other mobs if you're playing in normal survival. One awesome thing you can do as well, for another tip, is do the check spawns command if you're in a world with commands enabled, and then put in the rarity, and you can do this anywhere, and this will actually show you all the Pokemon that can spawn in the area that you are in, which is really helpful as well for making sure you're in the right biome to hunt certain Pokemon. The next tip, and this is actually one of my favorite tips, is to download the Legendary Encounters data pack on Modrinth. You can just look it up, Legendary Encounters, Cobblemon, it'll be the first thing that comes up. It's a data pack, so you have to install it as a data pack and activate it in your game. I think this makes the game so much more fun, and especially if you're playing on single player, I think you have to use this data pack, right? Because it gives you end goals, just trying to catch different legendary Pokemon, trying to hunt down mythical Pokemon, and there's even quests you can get from certain villagers like the Shady Villager. So I would definitely recommend downloading and installing this. Next week, actually, I plan on making a video on how exactly to download this and how to use it, so keep your eye out for that. Tip number 49 is to use the Cobblemon Discord. So go to the Cobblemon website and click on Discord, accept invite, and then in here there's a lot of different resources. So if you want to join a server, you can look right here on server listings, and there's all sorts of different servers that you can look through and find which one works best for you. There are also, however, add-ons as well as plugins. For example, this one right here looks like you have gym badges, Cobblemon Rider. This looks like you can ride on your Cobblemon, right? This one even just gives like a short little title screen with Lapras, right? So there's so many different things in here that you can look up and look into to make your experience in Cobblemon so much better. And now my biggest tip, number 50. The best advice I can give you is to watch the Survival Guide series. It may seem like I'm just promoting myself, but really, guys, the goal of that series is for me to teach you everything you could ever know about Cobblemon. By the time it's over, I hope to have answered every possible Cobblemon question there is. And so if you subscribe to this channel and start watching that playlist, which I'll put up right now, I'll explain all these tips in greater detail and many, many more. Thanks for watching and have a great day.